Rick Harrison, the iconic face behind Pawn Stars, made his name by turning rare finds into unbelievable deals, but nothing could have prepared him for the devastating truth he's now facing. At 59, the reality TV personality has confirmed something that stunned fans everywhere. His son is serving a life sentence. The revelation has shaken the Pawn Stars community to its core. How did things get to this point? What went so terribly wrong? And how will this impact the Harrison legacy going forward? Let's dive into the emotional and unexpected twists behind this heartbreaking news. At the center of the Pawn Stars universe was Richard "Old Man" Harrison, a no-nonsense Navy veteran and co-founder of the iconic Las Vegas pawn shop. At 77, he was sharp, disciplined, and a fan favorite thanks to his dry wit and tough love approach. "I'm 68 years old, and if it's off by a little I'm entitled," he once quipped, winning hearts for his unfiltered honesty. But everything shifted after his passing in 2018. His absence left a noticeable hole not only in the family but in the business that had become a television phenomenon. Rick Harrison, Richard's son, was the driving force behind turning a humble pawn shop into a global TV brand. "It's all I've ever known," he said about the business. From the start, Rick realized that pawn deals weren't just about value. They were about the story behind each item. Whether it was a Civil War sword or a vintage toy, what made it special was often the history attached to it. Building the gold and silver pawn shop from the ground up, Rick started with only a basic grasp of metals and antiques. The early days were tough. He sometimes gave out more in loans than he could afford, but he kept learning, kept hustling, and built a name for himself as one of the best in the business. Then came 2009. That's when the History Channel launched Pawn Stars, putting Rick, his father Richard, his son Corey "Big Hoss" Harrison, and Corey's friend Austin "Chumley" Russell in the national spotlight. The show gave viewers an inside look at the unpredictable world of pawnbroking, filled with quirky characters and one-of-a-kind items. One day a customer might bring in a 1950s jukebox. The next, someone would walk in claiming to have a piece of an Egyptian sarcophagus. The unpredictability is what made the show so addictive. You never knew what would walk through that door. But the real magic of the show was the people. Fans were drawn to the quick banter between Rick and his dad, while Chumley's offbeat humor added a light-hearted balance. As the show's popularity exploded, the pawn shop transformed into a tourist destination. However, as the fame grew, so did the cracks behind the scenes. What started as a family-run business became entangled in a messy legal feud that revealed deep fractures within the Harrison family. According to USA Today, things took a sharp turn when Rick's mother, Joanne Harrison, filed a civil lawsuit against him. The conflict centered around control of the family assets and ownership of the pawn shop itself. What had once been a family empire turned into a battleground. Joanne's legal team named Rick, as well as business entities tied to the shop, including Harrison Properties and Joe Rick Properties, as defendants in the case. The core of the dispute was a breach of contract. Joanne, who had been married to Richard Harrison for nearly 6 decades, claimed that during a period when she was in the hospital recovering from a coma, Rick had her sign over her majority share, 51% of the pawn shop, to him. Later, once she had recovered, Joanne insisted she hadn't been in the right frame of mind to make such a major decision. She believed she had been taken advantage of while she was vulnerable. The tension only escalated after Richard's death in 2018. Joanne claimed she was supposed to inherit the remaining 49% of his stake in the business, but she alleged that Rick never gave her access to accurate financial records. She also said she had no documentation explaining what happened to more than $500,000 in cash and silver that Richard had collected over the years. As the legal proceedings unfolded, Rick's financial empire was suddenly under threat. The lawsuit didn't just ask for money. It demanded a full audit of the shop's assets and requested that the court stop Rick from touching any funds tied to Joanne. She also asked the court to impose a constructive trust, meaning certain property would be legally held on her behalf. Rick, for his part, denied everything. In a statement to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, he defended himself, suggesting that his elderly mother may have been swayed by people with hidden motives. "As far as haggling," he said, joking, "I'd probably say women, and it's a real pain to try and go out to dinner somewhere." Still, behind the sarcasm was a serious problem. The lawsuit was just one of many troubles beginning to pile up for the Harrison family and their business. As reported by the Daily Mail, The gold and silver pawn shop, once bringing in over $1 million in yearly revenue, took a major financial hit in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That year it barely made $37,000. Despite the sharp decline, Joanne Harrison didn't back down from her legal fight. In fact, she doubled down, filing a restraining order against her own son Rick, her intent to stop him from selling or shifting any family assets that might reduce her share of the business. She also claimed that Rick had stopped sending her the agreed payments from Richard's portion of the pawn shop earnings. At one point, Rick had been sending her $225,000 annually, but those payments came to an abrupt stop in 2020. Some speculated that Rick may have been dealing with emotional struggles, pointing to signs like persistent anger, and even physical changes like hair loss. One person even joked that he looked like he'd been going through menopause for a decade, the longest one ever recorded. But for Joanne, there was nothing funny about it. She needed that money, and when it stopped coming in, she took legal action. The restraining order wasn't just about getting her payments reinstated. It was about stopping Rick from potentially hiding funds or selling off property that she believed rightfully belonged to her. Adding another layer to the drama was Joanne's health. At 81 years old, she was reportedly battling serious medical conditions that required constant 24/7 care. The cost, as much as $115,000 a month. But perhaps the biggest shock for Rick was how he learned about the restraining order. Not through his mom or her attorneys, but from the media. Finding out through the press left him blindsided. In the months that followed, Rick reportedly tried reaching out to Joanne multiple times, hoping to find common ground and come to a more personal agreement. "It's like anything else," he once said. "There's good, there's bad. It's just life." But despite his efforts, Joanne wouldn't respond. The silence between them only deepened the divide, turning what could have been a private disagreement into a very public legal war. While Rick was caught up in legal woes, his longtime co-star Austin "Chumley" Russell was facing troubles of his own. Known for his laid-back goofy charm on Pawn Stars, Chumley was no stranger to controversy. Back in 2012, TMZ reported a physical altercation involving him in Hollywood. Video footage showed Chumley in a scuffle with another man, who was later seen bruised and bleeding on the curb. Chumley, however, claimed it was self-defense, that the man had threatened to pull a gun on him and his friends, prompting Chumley to react quickly. The stranger reportedly didn't even realize he was swinging at someone famous. He was just looking for trouble, and asked for a ride. That incident blew over, but things escalated dramatically in 2016. According to the Chicago Tribune, Chumley was arrested and hit with a laundry list of charges, 20 in total. It started when police searched his Las Vegas home in response to an ongoing investigation into multiple assault allegations. He was in and out of court in under 5 minutes, but what was discovered at his house painted a far more troubling picture. Las Vegas police confirmed that the search stemmed from a complaint filed by a woman, and although he wasn't officially charged with assault, the investigation was still active. For a guy who made his name as the lovable class clown on TV, the reality off-camera was startling. Reports surfaced that Chumley was a suspect in a serious case involving alleged assault, that the worst of it wasn't the allegation itself, it was what the cops found in his home. According to the Associated Press and TMZ, authorities uncovered 19 drug-related offenses, and a charge for an illegal weapon. Records from the Clark County Detention Center showed the extent of the legal trouble he was facing. Eventually the assault claims were dropped, but by then the damage to his reputation had already been done. During the home raid, officers seized large amounts of marijuana, methamphetamine, and prescription drugs like Xanax. There were also traces of cocaine, and 12 firearms in total, 8 of which were unregistered. Realizing the weight of the evidence, Chumley took a plea deal to stay out of prison. He pleaded guilty to felony firearm possession and attempted drug possession, a gross misdemeanor. While the plea kept him out of jail, the scandal left a permanent mark on his public image and cast a long shadow over his career. Rick Harrison's son, Corey "Big Hoss" Harrison, has had his own share of negative headlines, and not the kind he hoped for. From the start, Corey made it clear that he wanted to eventually take over the family business, but his personal choices kept creating roadblocks. Things really took a turn during a motorcycle tour stop in Jefferson City. According to witnesses, Corey had been on a week-long drinking spree, and it all came to a head at a local bar called Spectators. That night, he shocked everyone by urinating in public and launching a bar stool across the room. Staff threw him out immediately, but the damage was done. The incident became a public embarrassment almost overnight. Trying to do damage control, Corey later issued an apology and tried to clean up his image, but controversy seemed to follow him like a shadow. In 2021, he made headlines again, this time over a legal dispute that started with a weekend getaway gone wrong. TMZ reported that Corey had rented an RV for a quick trip to the California desert back in 2020, but things got complicated when the RV's owner, William Villano, claimed Corey never returned the vehicle on time or in good condition. According to Villano, Corey's assistant reached out a day late, saying they'd been in an accident and were arranging for the RV to be towed, but the RV didn't show up until 2 days later, and when it finally did, it was a complete wreck. The damage was far more severe than just a couple of scrapes or dents. Reports described the RV's interior as trashed, filled with empty alcohol bottles, broken eggs, and general chaos. The awning had been ripped off completely. The estimated repairs, around $30,000. To make matters worse, Villano claimed he had to cancel 10 future bookings while the vehicle was out of commission, and said Corey refused to pay for the damages, forcing him to file a police report. As media coverage heated up, Corey's rep offered a brief explanation. They said the RV's slide-outs were faulty from the beginning, which made it undrivable. Corey, according to them, had it towed back to Las Vegas and handed the matter over to his insurance company. While Corey managed to dodge serious legal consequences, the incident further chipped away at his public image, and his struggles didn't end there. Behind the scenes, Corey had long been battling health issues, especially with his weight. By 2010, concerned about his well-being, he decided to undergo gastric bypass surgery, a procedure that helped him shed over 100 pounds. It was a major personal win, but staying healthy while juggling fame and business pressures wasn't easy. Still, one bright spot during that time was his friendship with Chumlee. The two remained close, and Corey's transformation even inspired Chumlee to begin his own weight loss journey. But despite the positive changes, challenges still lingered. Life behind the scenes was complicated, and just when fans thought the worst might be over, more skeletons began to emerge, this time involving the experts that made Pawn Stars so intriguing. For years, Pawn Stars wasn't just about Rick, Corey and Chumlee. A big part of the show's charm came from the team of experts who helped identify, appraise, and explain the value behind unique artifacts and antiques. Viewers loved watching specialists break down everything from rare coins to historical documents. These experts became celebrities in their own right, but not everyone stayed on the right side of the spotlight. One of the show's toy appraisers, Johnny Jimenez Jr., found himself in the middle of a scandal that quickly damaged his standing. He was caught on camera in what appeared to be a violent altercation with his girlfriend outside a Las Vegas restaurant. TMZ released the footage, which showed a chaotic scene. Jimenez claimed he was only trying to help his partner, who was drunk and stumbling, but the clip painted a different story. The backlash was immediate, and his reputation took a serious hit. Another embarrassment came from John Resnikoff, a well-known autograph authenticator featured on the show. In 2011, he made a major mistake during an evaluation. He examined a script from The Godfather, and confidently stated that the signature on it was from Al Pacino. Unfortunately, he was wrong. The autograph actually belonged to producer Al Ruddy. The blunder called his judgment into question, and raised concerns about how reliable these so-called experts really were. While some viewers brushed off the autograph mix-up as a harmless error, others couldn't help but question how many other mistakes may have gone unnoticed. But the real blow came in 2015, when Pawn Stars expert Drew Max, known for evaluating sports memorabilia, became the center of a serious scandal. Unlike the autograph confusion with Resnikoff, this wasn't just a slip-up, it was fraud. In New Jersey, Max was accused of validating fake sports collectibles that later ended up in auctions, tricking buyers who trusted his reputation. When collectors realized they'd been duped, lawsuits started pouring in. People were outraged. Many believed Max had used his connection to Pawn Stars to build trust, only to abuse that influence for personal gain. The incident didn't just hurt the victims financially, it shook the credibility of the entire show. Viewers began to question the accuracy of past appraisals. Had other items also been incorrectly verified? Were other experts hiding similar skeletons? While some chalked it up to human error, very few were willing to defend Max. His actions didn't just cause financial loss, they left a permanent stain on the show's image. As more controversies piled up, Pawn Stars began to lose its original spark. In its early seasons, the show blended historical education with quirky entertainment. Rick and his team welcomed people off the street with all kinds of fascinating items. A samurai sword one day, a Beatles-signed album the next. The thrill came from never knowing what might walk through the door. But over time, that unpredictability faded. Rumors started circulating that many sellers were actually pre-selected, and that appraisals were staged in advance. That spontaneity fans once loved, it began to feel scripted. Even the dynamic between cast members started to shift. The unscripted funny banter slowly gave way to rehearsed arguments and exaggerated roles. Rick became the ever-serious boss, Corey the ambitious but often bumbling successor, and Chumley the comic relief. Though his real-life legal issues made that persona harder for fans to embrace. Instead of showcasing rare treasures and the stories behind them, the show seemed to drift toward focusing on family tension, turning into something closer to reality drama than educational TV. The issues didn't stop there. In a bid to capitalize on the show's massive success, Rick launched Pawn Plaza, a shopping and dining area, next to the gold and silver pawn shop. The idea was simple. Fans visiting the shop could explore nearby businesses too, but the plan didn't work out. Foot traffic was lower than expected, and several businesses struggled to survive. Shop owners later complained that Rick didn't do enough to support or promote the plaza. One by one, storefronts shut down. What was meant to be a bold expansion ended in disappointment, with some vendors even taking legal action. All of this left viewers wondering, if someone could mistake a signature from The Godfather, what other details had slipped through the cracks over the years? And what did all of this mean for the show's once strong legacy? From the beginning, Pawn Stars was more than just a reality TV show. It was a cultural phenomenon. What started out as a small family business in the heart of Las Vegas grew into a worldwide hit. Millions tuned in each week, not just for the deals, but for the stories. The show turned old objects into windows into the past, making antiques cool again. Whether it was a 19th century revolver or a signed baseball, each item carried a piece of history, and Rick and his crew helped viewers connect the dots. But as the fame grew, so did the cracks. Legal disputes, questionable expert evaluations, and behind-the-scenes drama started overshadowing the charm. The same show that once taught people about obscure historical objects became a case study in the downsides of sudden success. The pressure to stay relevant and flawless took its toll, and not just on the business, but on the people who built it. Still, even with all the setbacks, Pawn Stars holds a place in television history. It transformed a local pawn shop into a global destination, and made Rick Harrison, once just a Las Vegas business owner, into a household name. Do you remember the moment when everything changed? Fans often ask. For many, Pawn Stars was their first peek into the world of collectibles and negotiation, wrapped in humor, history, and unexpected discoveries. No matter what lies ahead, the show's legacy is secure. It captured the spirit of entrepreneurship and the American love for hidden treasures. Even if the show fades away, its influence on pop culture won't be forgotten anytime soon.